Hi guys, welcome to the Mountain of God. My name is Camille. Today is 29th of April 2021. Welcome to video number 9. Today we're gonna continue, we're gonna move forward in the adulthood part of the time frame of spiritual growth. And today we're gonna talk about kind of crucial moment, because we're gonna talk about moment which is kind of like a bridging point in between adulthood and you being called to do what you've been basically created to do. And I'm going to talk about it because it's very important for us to understand where we are on this timeline, and to understand what are the rules and what are the reasons that we even in this period of time. The first thing that I want to talk about is the first part of your life, which is basically taking you from your childhood through your teenagers to even some part of your adult years in your spiritual life. And this is the time of training. And the time of training is completely different than the time of you being in your calling, in your mission. And it's different. I can say what I've experienced, only, but there's a huge difference in between time of training and time of actual service in the time of peace and in the time of war. And I don't want to be really philosophical about it, and try to put some form of or some theological, or I don't know, philosophical, in my small-minded way, philosophical, to put it into the boxes or something like this. But the time of training which we have right now, at least in a Western society, is time of training during the peacetime. And the major things that's gonna that will happen during that time, it's first and foremost, or the reason for this time, is to basically help you understand who you really are as a person, to push you towards becoming the best version of yourself. That's the training part, to basically prepare you for the things that you're supposed to do. That's the training and what it's all about. But there are a few things that will happen. There's a few that I just picked out of probably much many more that you will find there. But first of all, you'll have to learn that this whole experience is your playground. The younger you are, the less responsibility you have, but the more protection you have. You're supposed to learn, you're supposed to be pushed to go over the limits, to play in the playground, play in the sandbox, walk on the trees, ride the bicycle, jump from the bridge to the swimming, the water, and so on. Do some crazy stuff just to expand, just to touch as much things as you can, so you could finally understand who you really are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the things you're supposed to embrace, to really pursue, because you are definitely gifted in those areas. What are the things that you're terrible at, but you're supposed to fix because it's going to be important for you to support your major things that you are good at? And what are the things that you're completely terrible at, and you're supposed to just leave it alone, never touch it again? This is like self-awareness training. That's the whole childhood. As normal toddlers basically learning how to crawl, how to walk, how to talk, how to eat. The same thing here in spiritual realm for you. So you're supposed to learn how to understand yourself, and then how to touch and experience things, and then try things by trial and error. And what will be the result or the consequence of that you will fall. You'll make mistakes. You'll just say, oh, it looks like it doesn't work that way. So you will have to learn is how to fall, and then how to get up. What are the things you're supposed to do it again just to be better at it? Or what are the things that that was a mistake, you're supposed to never do that again? One of the major lessons is to learn how to make mistakes. And that's why you cannot be confined to little boxes. You have to learn that everything here is your playing ground to test, to test the thing and to test yourself by testing the thing. B, something that you learn here as well is how to forgive yourself and how to allow yourself to be forgiven. Because let's say it straight, when we're talking about it in a kind of self-awareness, kind of self-development area, if you're in this thing, it's much easier to swallow that you just have to move on and you just have to, forgive yourself for your mistakes. But many people in the churches are having they're completely unable to pass that point. And maybe because I was raised in rather traditional denomination of evangelical Christianity, which is baptism, I saw so many people who were never capable of passing the point of salvation and sanctification. And don't get me wrong, some people will stay there forever. Maybe some of them are called to stay there. It's not me to judge, and even more, the more I look at those people and how faithful they are, it's fascinating to observe. And that's why glory to God for these people, because they will share what they know, and they'll be probably the first lines of those who are going to go and share the gospel and get people into salvation. Because they won't look for higher truths, they're going to look for people. And that's an honor, and it will be an honor to serve with these people. But there's tons of you who will have to move forward and pass this truth. And if that's your calling to pass this point, you'll have to understand that the cross was never the end of the story. Cross was the beginning. That's why Jesus is saying the cross was the door to the Father. That's why there will be people who are going to stay on the cross, and God bless them, and their service is going to be very, very respected. But there are going to be tons of people that maybe you're one of them, that you have to surpass that moment and see that there is a Holy of Holies opened for us. And that's why you'll have to forgive yourself and then be like someone who allows God to forgive you, and not be the person who is not able to do anything because, no, I'm a sinner, I'm not worthy, I'm going to wait for God to do whatever He wants to do in my life. If that's you, cool. But for many of you, you will have to swallow the pill. You've been forgiven. Learn the lesson. Move on. I never saw a parent of a child that was fine with looking at a 15-year-old child being in guilt for, destroying a plate when they were 3 on some Sunday breakfast. And but I crashed this plate, or I smashed the window, or whatever I've done. Kid, that was 12 years ago. Get over it. Move on. So that's the second thing. For you to be able to move on and reach for the other things that you're supposed to be training, you'll have to learn how to be forgiven, and then how to, based on that, be able to forgive others. Because trust me, on your way, there are going to be people who will unconsciously or subconsciously or consciously, being strictly into your face malevolent, be basically against you. And you have to learn to forgive as well. And the tougher, the closer the person to you, the harder it is to forgive. But you have to be really good at it. And then point number 3, one of the last lessons I think the longest that you've been trained, we will be training that, is the lessons how to be led. That's why one of the most important things I'm telling you is just you have to learn how to talk to God. That's the basis of everything. Because how can you be led if you can't listen to what your trainer tells you? It's just never going to happen. And that's why the most of the time, or even the channel where every lesson is going to be given to you, is by you being able to listen and do what you're told. And you've got to understand that the training will have its own perks, features, and bugs. But one of the things that you learn that during the training, you're supposed to make mistakes. And it all depends what kind of section of the army you're in, and I like to use this military comparison. If you're trained to be a I don't know, in logistics or something more stationary, it's going to be different training and different. It's going to be a different consequence on you when you make a mistake. It's going to be much tougher when you're in special forces, because you're going to probably you're going to get bitten. They're going to give you hell when you make a mistake. But you're in special forces. But most of the army, the training's not going to be so harsh, but harsh enough for you to learn the lesson. Because you have to learn how to be led, how to listen, and how to do what you're told. Again, basis of Christianity, to listen and to do the will of the Father. But interestingly enough, based on that, and if you'll be good at it, you're going to be given a possibility to learn how to lead others. And interestingly enough, this is going to be part of the training section. Many of you who are leaders for your home groups, many of you who are leaders of your youth groups, many of you who are even pastors, and even maybe you've got your own ministries, maybe it is still time of training. Why? Because if that's going to be a time, if your ministry, you being a pastor is just a training, try to imagine what is going to happen when you're called and what that calling will have to be. But remember that that you have to be able to be trained to lead others somehow, and that might be the way. So again, the training is to help you to morph from being a toddler who needs to learn how to walk and eat and poop, to become a person who is capable of taking over and winning against yourself, someone who is excellent in being led and excellent in leading others, with everything in between. Then we get to the point number 2, which is crucial and which I want to kind of emphasize, because I see, for some reason, for years now, literally years, even more, I would say even decades, I hold this in myself. That there's a very important moment that will be a bridging point in between your training and your calling, will be the moment of your calling. And if you look at Bible, and even more, some people who are right now the leaders in church in varieties of ministries, every one of them, not everyone, but most of them at least from my, I basically look at it and try to find, how many people had this, and most of them that I found that I listened to, they said the same thing. There will be a moment which will be supernatural moment that God will come to you and tell you, listen, we've been observing you. And we made a decision that we see you as ready. We want you to join the army. Are you ready? Are you okay with this? Because, that's going to be a decision given to you. Do you want to join? Are you willing to? There's a mission. Should you choose to accept it? Wink, wink. So the first thing that you understand will happen, and many times, the first thing that it will happen is going to be supernatural thing. Why? It doesn't have to be, but I call it a burning bush moment, just like Moses did. It's something that is going to be so obvious to you that you won't going to be able to doubt it. Or it's not going to be something like that something happened and the next day you'll think, did that even happen? Maybe I ate something. Maybe that was this crazy movie that I watched. It was so inspirational. No. This is going to be something that you know that happened, that God faced you and told you, I want you to join the army. Are you ready? Second thing that will happen, it will be understanding, and that's supposed to be some kind of part of your training as well, to understand that everything's going to it will change from that moment in time. Rules, what's going to change. It's going to be a completely different thing. Because the consequence of your mistakes during the training and the lessons that you did and lessons that you didn't do or failed, now we're going to reap. Because you're going to reap what you saw. And So the consequence of mistakes is going to be completely different. And you've got to understand that the results of your mistakes in your calling might be dire, not only for you, but for other people. We're going to come back to that. And the third point, which as I already said, you will be given a choice to make. No one's going to push you. No one's going to force you to do that. You will be given a choice. You can do that. Sometimes you can say no. Jonah did, and God did everything for him to come back to the decision. But there are people who will say no. So you see, this moment will come. And I want you to understand that the whole your training is leading you to that moment. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Train so you'll be ready. Train so you do everything you can and push yourself, and poke God, ask Him for more. So the moment He will come, you will say, I don't know what I'm jumping into, but I trust you that you won't be here if you would not be sure that I'm capable. So that's the point number 2, the moment of your calling, the burning bush moment. And then 3, the moment you're going to join the army, the moment you will move out of the boot camp and join the ranks and basically put in a position that you will called to be in, there are going to be tons of other things and tons of different things that you have to understand and learn here. You'll be trained by fire, definitely. There are different layers. You'll not become a general from or major just in a week. You'll have your own going through ranks and learning different things, and it's all going to expand as well. But first of all, understand what is the reason that you are here. The reason is for you to do what your calling says, and especially now, because in theory we would think about that piece of war. If you're paying attention to what's going on in the world right now, you know that we are on the brink of the biggest war ever. In a spirit, in a physical, there's a longer story, but if the simple thing that I'll kind of push you towards looking into, the vaccinations right now. They are now the whole process is pushed towards giving it's called like a green passport or something, which is the medical card which will tell you or others that you've been vaccinated or not. And already now it's starting to be used as a general ID, like a global ID, because it's going to be the same thing for everyone. It is a precedence in the history of the human beings. But only one more thing is required for this to really play its role. The World Economic Forum is talking right now about Great Reset, which is Great Economical Reset, which will give them one thing that they tried to do from the beginning of time. And now they finally have this option. Because the moment they will be able to connect your medical information, your ID, and your wallet, which basically this whole economic reset is about, to basically reset the currencies so they'll be able to move out of the cash, do everything on blockchain, so electronically. And then, as it already happens in Israel, there are shops which you are not able to shop in if you don't have this card. There are places that already are not, you're not going to be able to go without this card, which is like an airplane. At least to some degree, because it's not enforced yet in everything, but it doesn't matter. But then if you're going to get cash, now you're going to have everything, medical, ID, and your financial, everything in one card. And then, out of nowhere, we land in a scenario or in a world where without that, you're not able to buy or sell. And the only one thing I can say is that probably in a few months, we're going to wake up in Revelation, my brothers and sisters. So if you think that it's going to be peace and everything's going to be fine, you might be mistaken. And then maybe I'm mistaken, just saying. Look at it and observe what's going to happen. But it might say that me and my generation, plus the younger generation, we're going to enter the calling in the time of war. And that's why I want you to understand that looking at at your calling, which is basically built upon this concept that everything that you've been done was basically for you to lead other people, to serve other people. So few things will happen. One, everything that you're going to do will be connected to people. Everything. That's why you need social skills, which we mentioned in previous videos. Second, you will understand that one of the major things here is going to be unity of the church. And we're going to talk about it in previous videos. But I want you to understand that this is one of the reasons why the judgment will start from the house of God. Why? Because we need to be united. And if you really kind of observed what you've been taught during the training, this is exactly what happened to us. My generation, in comparison to older generation, especially generation of our grandparents, at least in Poland, in comparison to them, we don't care about denominations. For them, for years it was a problem. Baptists never talk to Pentecostals and the other way around because of some historical issues. For us, we don't care. You can be Catholic, you can be evangelical, you can be charismatic, you can be Muslim, you can be whatever. If God touched you, and you basically got out of wherever you were, whoever you were, and now we can see that there's a Christ in you, there's a Holy Spirit in you, we will have a great time together. That was one of the things that we learned. That was one of the things that got worked on, at least in Poland, in my generation, amongst my people. That the walls of unity, the walls of not being in unity were basically crumbled, and that was awesome to observe. So everything is going to be about people. Unity will play the major role, and 3, church will basically finally get into its stage to play a role as a whole, as an organization-ish. We're going to talk about later, but I want you to understand that the war, it's all about people. And one very important aspect of that is that now your mistake or your mistakes will not going to cause you to be slapped on your hands, not yelled at, some training captain or whatever. But in this moment, if you're going to make mistakes, it's going to cost lives. And because it's going to be time of war, your mistakes may have caused eternal lives for some people. That's why from the beginning of the whole recordings that I do, I'm telling you, God is not playing games. And the more you will get enter this time of war and global conflict and basically open war in between devil and his armies and God and his plan, you will see how much more serious this whole thing is. That's why my generation, and that's why what's happening, I'm observing, I see that so many of us are already being prepared to be able to handle this some of it. Because let's say it's right, you'll never be able to train in peacetime and be ready for war. It's just not going to happen. That's why what I want you to basically think about right now is where you are. If you're in a training, awesome. Pay as much attention as you can to what you're learning, because each and every element that you've been trained in, it's gonna matter. That's why I told you a few videos ago, everything is there for a reason. Because each lesson, each experience will teach you something that you will need desperately in the time of your service. And then teach and learn yourself and push yourself so you'll be ready for the moment of calling, because it will happen. And the closer we are to the war, the more obvious it's going to be. And then if you are already in a service, understand that everything is about people. And maybe if your service is to train others, train them for them to become better than you are. Because the end war is going to be the biggest war human race ever seen. And we're going to be part of it. That's why, again, God is not playing games. It's serious. And your training may be coming to an end. Be aware of it. So this is what I want you to take from this video. You are trained, and your reason for your training is for you to be able to enter your calling. The time for your being called to your calling is coming. Are you ready? If not, train, do the homework that you have to do so you could be as much prepared as possible. And then when it comes, be able to be led, be able to use everything that you've learned, and to give everything you can to win the war, which is the reason that we are in it in the first place. Think about it and do something about it. Because as you can see, this journey is so much more than just Sunday Christianity. But it's going to be built on your ability to do your job, to be excellent in the place that you've been called to be put in. So play with the understanding that many lives and eternities will be based on how good you're trained and how excellent or not you're in doing what you've been called to do. If you like this video, like, share, comment. If you didn't, comment as well. Tell me what you think, what you experience. And if there's anything you want me to talk about, just give me a shout, DM me or whatever, and I'll be glad to do that for you. That being said, see you in the next video.